Welcome to Do the Math America. I am Charlene, the Math Shaman.
Today we work on dividing decimals from page 35 and 36 of the beginning algebra book. You can find a link to this textbook in the description box below this video. Dividing decimals. To divide with decimals, 1. We move both decimal points to the right by the same number of places in order to get a whole number divisor. 2. Place a decimal point in the quotient directly above the decimal point in the dividend. 3. Add zeros after the last digit on the dividend when necessary. 4. Divide as with whole numbers. 5. Round the quotient as needed. To divide a decimal by a whole number divisor, we start from step 2. I will now demonstrate the examples for you, as that might be easier for you to follow. 5.16 divided by 12. We write down the equation. We are dividing by a whole number, 12, so there's no need to move the decimal point there. And we start by putting a decimal point on the quotient line above the decimal point of the dividend. And we write a 0 in front of the decimal point on the quotient line. Now we ignore the decimal points and do the division as if it was a whole number division. 516 divided by 12. So I like to start by writing down the multiples of the divisor on the right. So how many times does 12 go into 51? And the answer is 4. We write 4 above the 1 on the quotient line. 12 times 4 equals 48. And now I subtract. 51 minus 48 equals 3. And I bring down the 6. Now I ask, how many times does 12 go into 36? And the answer is 3. So you write 3 on the quotient line next to the 4. 12 times 3 equals 36. 36 minus 36 equals 0. So the answer is 0.43. Negative 5.16 divided by 1.2. Notice that you are dividing a negative number with a positive number, which means the answer will be negative. And you write a negative sign up from the beginning so that you don't forget. And now you do the division. 5.16 divided by 1.2. You need to move the decimal over one place at 1.2 to make it a whole number, which means you also need to move the decimal from the dividend over one place to the right. And then you put the decimal point, align it on top on the quotient line, and 12 goes into 51 4 times. 12 times 4 equals 48. 51 minus 48 is 3. Bring down the 6. 12 goes into 36 3 times. Write 3 on the quotient line behind the decimal point. 12 times 3 equals 36. 36 minus 36 is 0. So the answer is negative 4.3. And box your answer. .16 divided by 0.0012. So set up the equation and spread out the digits. We will need to move the decimal point on the divisor, 0.0012, over, make a whole number. So we move the decimal point 4 places to the right to make it 12. And so we need to do the same thing on the dividend. Move that decimal place 4 scoops over. You fill in those empty scoops with 0, and you write the decimal point above on the quotient line to match up where it is on the dividend. And now we ignore all those decimal points and all those zeros in front of 12. So now you're dividing 51,600 divided by 12. Start by asking, how many times does 12 go into 51? 12 goes into 51 4 times. Write 4 above the 1 on the quotient line. And 12 times 4 equals 48. 51 minus 48 equals 3. Bring down the 6. 12 goes into 36 3 times. You write 3 on the quotient line. And 12 times 3 equals 36. 36 minus 36 equals 0. So now you're done with the division, and you bring up those remainder zeros from the dividend onto the quotient line. So 5.16 divided by 0.0012 equals 4,300, and box your answer. Find 58 divided by 2.4 and round the solution to the nearest tenth. So we write out the equation and we draw out the problem. 58 divided by 2.4. Spread out the digits. Make sure you can see everything nice and clearly. And now we need to move the decimal point on 2.4 over 1 place to make it a whole number, 24. Then we also need to move the decimal place over 1 place on the dividend. So 58 becomes 580. And bring up the decimal point onto the quotient line so that it matches where the decimal point is on the dividend. Now we're doing 580 divided by 24. So 24 goes into 58 2 times, because 24 times 2 equals 48. 24 times 3 is 72, so that's too large. So you write 2 above the 8 on the quotient line. 2 times 24 is 48. 58 minus 48 is 10, and then you bring down the last 0. So 24 goes into 100 how many times? 24 times 4 is 96. So 24 goes into 100 4 times. And you write 4 next to the 2 on the quotient line. 24 times 4 is 96. 100 minus 96 is 4. So we add some more zeros behind the decimal point to continue the division. 24 goes into 40 1 time. So you write the 1 on the quotient line behind the decimal point. 24 times 1 is 24. 40 minus 24 is 16. And now you can bring down another 0 to continue the division. 24 goes into 160 how many times? So we do more side calculations to figure out the multiples of 24, and we find that 24 goes into 160 6 times. 24 times 6 is 144. So since we need to solve this calculation to the nearest tenth, we are done with our division, and we know we need to round up. So 58 divided by 2.4 is 24.2. We round up to 2. And we box our answer. Find 56.4 divided by negative 2.43 and round the solution to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so you draw out the problem so that you can solve it. So first we notice we have a positive number divided by a negative number, which means the solution will be negative. So we draw out the negative sign up front so that we won't forget. And now we draw out the problem so that we can solve it, leaving out the negative sign. And we see we need to move the decimal place over 2 scoops to the right on the divisor, which means we need to do the same thing on the dividend. So we have 1 empty scoop, which we fill with a 0, and we write the decimal point on the quotient line to match where it is on the dividend. We will be doing 5,640 divided by 243. And so I write out a couple of multiples of 243. Do these calculations on the side. Make sure that you get the computations correct, and then line up the multiples of your divisor, in this case 243, so that you have those multiples ready to go when you need to subtract on the problem. So first we see that 243 goes into 564 two times. You write 2 above the 4 on the quotient line. 2 times 243 equals 486, and you subtract 564 minus 486, and you get 78. Now you bring down the 0, so it's 780 divided by 243. So I will write up another multiple, and I can see that 243 goes into 780 three times, and I write 3 next to the 2 on the quotient line. 3 times 243 is 729. Write that underneath, 780. And then I do the subtraction. 780 minus 729 equals 51. And now we need to continue the problem by adding more zeros to the dividend, and then we can bring down that 0. And it's 243 goes into 510 two times. 2 times 243 equals 486. And now we subtract 510 minus 486. But first I clear my board so I can continue with my division problem. So 510 minus 486 equals 24. And now I bring down another 0. 243 goes into 240 0 times, so I write 0 on the quotient line. And now I bring down another 0 from the dividend to continue the problem. 243 goes into 2,400. How many times? So I calculate the remaining multiples of 243, and we find that 243 goes into 2,400 9 times. So we write 9 above the quotient line. Now we are ready to round our solution, our quotient, to the nearest hundredth. So the answer is 23.21, which means 56.4 divided by negative 2.43 is negative 23.21 when rounded to the nearest hundredth. And box your answer. Find the average mean of the numbers 31.6, 24.7, 56, and 34.2. Find the average of a set of numbers. You must add up all those numbers and divide by the number of those numbers. So in this case, we must add up 31.6 plus 24.7 plus 56 plus 34.2 and divide the sum of all those numbers by 4, since there are a total of 4 numbers. So first we do the addition. 31.6 plus 24.7 plus 56 plus 34.2. We write out that calculation, line up the decimal points, and line up the place values accordingly. We first add up the numbers on the right-hand column. 6 plus 7 plus 2 equals 15. Write down 5, carry 1. 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 6 plus 4 equals 16. So you write down 6, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 5 plus 3 equals 14. So we write 14 and we write down the decimal point. So the sum of those numbers is 146.5. Now we must divide by 4. So we do that calculation now. Draw that out, 146.5 divided by 4. 4 goes into 14 3 times. 4 times 3 equals 12. 14 minus 12 is 2. You bring down the 6. 4 goes into 26. 6 times, you write 6 on the quotient line. 4 times 6 equals 24. And here I remember to write my decimal point on the quotient line. 26 minus 24 is 2. You bring down the 5. 4 goes into 25 6 times. Write 6 on the quotient line. 4 times 6 equals 24. 25 minus 24 equals 1. And now you can bring down another 0 from the dividend. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 equals 2. And I bring down another 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So 4 times 5 equals 20. 20 minus 20 is 0. So now we're done with the division. 146.5 divided by 4 equals 36.625, which is the average of all those numbers, and box your answer. Practice problems for dividing decimals are on page 36. And once again, there are ample problems for you to practice on. You might want to do every third problem from 1 through 60. And then from 61 to 77, maybe do the even number problems, making sure to tackle some of the word problems as well. Check your answers with the answers in the back of the book to verify for yourself that you have a good grasp of the material.
If you find this video helpful, please give me a like, subscribe to my channel for more videos on math, and share this channel with anyone you know who wants to learn math. Thank you for watching my video.